There's no words. There's no words. The only thing that I have to say at this point is what Mr. Romanucci said regarding the suit. Okay, me and my family, our goal is to keep my daughter's memory alive, my grandchildren's memories alive, and continue doing things that my daughter has been doing down the road. And if we can save one person from being abused or done what was done to my daughter, that would just make us feel wonderful.
Columbia, Illinois, is a charming small town nestled along the bluffs of the Mississippi River, about 12 miles south of St. Louis, Missouri. With its tree-lined streets, historic buildings, and well-kept parks, Columbia is a quiet community known for its strong sense of neighborhood and family values. The town has a population of around 10,000 residents and offers a mix of suburban convenience and rural beauty, with sprawling farmland and scenic views just outside its borders. Founded in the early 19th century, Columbia has a rich German heritage that can still be seen today in its architecture, community festivals, and local businesses. The historic Main Street area is home to several locally owned shops, restaurants, and businesses, creating a welcoming atmosphere for residents and visitors alike. The school district is well regarded, drawing families to the area for both the quality of education and the safe, close-knit environment. The town has preserved much of its historic charm while also providing modern amenities and recreation. Local parks, such as Bohm Shoecraft Park, offer trails, picnic areas, and sports facilities. Columbia's proximity to St. Louis allows residents easy access to the cultural attractions, job opportunities, and larger retail options available in the city, while still enjoying a peaceful, small-town lifestyle. In the early morning hours of May 5, 2009, Columbia, Illinois police were dispatched to a house in the quiet suburb to investigate a disturbing welfare check request. 31-year-old Sheri Coleman and her two sons, 11-year-old Garett and 9-year-old Gavin, had reportedly not been answering calls. Upon entering the home, officers stumbled onto a nightmare scene. Sheri and her boys had been strangled in their beds, with disturbing messages spray-painted in red on the walls reading, "I am always watching, you have paid and punished." The brutality shocked this small town, setting off a 2-year investigation that would reveal secrets lurking within the family.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're sad to announce that we're investigating a triple homicide here in the city of Columbia. Deceased at the home at 2854 Robert Drive is a female by the name of Sheri Coleman. She's 31 years old, and her two children, Garett Coleman, who's 11 years old, and Gavin Coleman, who is 9 years old. The Columbia Police Department was called to this house this morning just before 7 a.m., and they then discovered these bodies. And shortly after that, Chief Edwards felt it his responsibility to give this investigation the most he could, so he activated and authorized the use of the Major Case Squad. Since that time, we've gathered together with investigators, and we have around 25 investigators working this crime. The Illinois State Police is involved. They are continuing their efforts at the scene, and we have investigators currently working this homicide. The autopsies are being conducted as we speak, so we don't know what the cause of death is, but we do believe that the manner of death is homicide. Well, this time it's so early on, I don't want to speculate into any motive, and if I go into random, then that means there's maybe a motive behind that. I really don't know. We're following leads. We have leads in this case. We're following them, and I would just let everyone know that we're doing all we can to find out what happened in this house.
Chris Coleman, Sheri's husband and the father of Garett and Gavin, worked as the head of security for Joyce Meyer, a famous televangelist known worldwide for her Christian ministry. Chris Coleman was no ordinary security guard. He had a prominent role as the personal bodyguard to Meyer herself, and his $100,000 salary provided a comfortable lifestyle for his family. Chris had met Sheri in 1997 at a K-9 training seminar at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. Sheri, then 21, was serving as a military police officer, while Chris, a year older, was a Marine. Their whirlwind romance quickly led to marriage and the birth of their first son, Garett, and a second son, Gavin, 2 years later. The family settled in Columbia, Illinois, close to Chris's parents, Ron and Connie, who were evangelical pastors. To friends, Chris and Sheri seemed to have an ideal life. They lived in a beautiful 2-story home in a peaceful neighborhood, and by all outward appearances, Chris and Sheri were a loving couple with 2 happy boys. But behind the facade of this perfect family, things were beginning to unravel. In November 2008, Chris reported receiving his first ominous threat, an email filled with violent language, claiming that his family would be harmed unless he quit his job working for Meyer. Chris shared the email with both the local police and his boss, Meyer. She took the threats seriously, knowing Chris's role with her ministry made him a potential target. However, the threats didn't stop. In January 2009, Chris claimed he received a handwritten letter left in his mailbox, further warning him about working for Meyer. The language was chilling and ominous, but police found no physical evidence of the person behind the notes. In response, police increased patrols around the Coleman home, and Chris's neighbor, Columbia Police Detective Justin Barlow, installed a security camera aimed directly at the Coleman mailbox to catch any potential suspects in the act. Yet, weeks passed without further leads. Despite the growing concern over the threats, Sheri confided in friends that she was more worried about her marriage. She noticed Chris was becoming distant and suspected he was having an affair. Friends later testified that Sheri even made a chilling statement, saying, "If anything happens to me, it was Chris." Her words took on a haunting new significance after the events of that spring morning. On the day of the murders, Chris left the house early, as was his custom, to work out at a gym across the Mississippi River in Missouri. He claimed that he called Sheri's phone several times, leaving messages asking her to call back. Growing more anxious when she didn't respond, Chris asked his neighbor, Detective Barlow, to check in on her. Barlow and another officer arrived at the house where they noticed an open basement window. Concerned, they entered and began searching the house, encountering the chilling spray-painted messages on the walls. They soon found Sheri, Garett, and Gavin dead in their beds, with ligature marks on their necks suggesting they had been strangled. When Chris arrived home shortly after, he was held outside while officers informed him of his family's death. He was then escorted to police headquarters, where detectives began questioning him.
Well, I set my alarm clock for 5:30 and I used my phone for my alarm clock. And got up at 5:30, went to the bathroom, and basically got in the truck and left.
When you left the house this morning, was your wife alive?
Well, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I think she was. She was. She was laying right beside me.
Listen, man, she wasn't alive when you left.
She was alive. She was laying right beside me.
Listen to me. We can go back and forth with this all day long, but the physical evidence doesn't lie.
As the investigation progressed, the disturbing details of Chris's personal life began to surface. Sheri's phone and Chris's laptop contained numerous messages hinting at problems in their marriage. Soon, detectives uncovered a secret relationship between Chris and Tara Lintz, a friend of Sheri's who lived in Florida. Lintz and Chris had been exchanging intimate texts, photos, and videos for months. They even took trips together to Hawaii and Arizona, both under the guise of Chris's work trips. Chris had made promises to Tara, including one with significant implications. He would divorce Sheri soon. Lintz told detectives that Chris gave her a promise ring and that he was committed to building a life with her. In her court testimony, she recalled how Chris said he planned to serve Sheri divorce papers around May 4th or 5th, almost perfectly aligning with the timeline of the murders. The clues began to converge. Investigators found receipts for red spray paint in the Coleman home, which matched the messages on the walls. Forensic analysts confirmed that the threatening emails were actually sent from Chris's laptop using his own login details. Police concluded that the notes, emails, and spray-painted messages were staged to create the appearance of an outside threat. The evidence was overwhelming. Chris's computer records indicated he had been sending himself the threatening messages for months, and forensic linguists pointed out similarities in phrasing and word choice between the threats and Chris's everyday communication. In an even more chilling twist, cell phone records revealed that Chris took an unusually long route home on the day of the murders, bypassing his usual path along Interstate 255. Detectives believed he had used the extra time to stage the crime scene before calling police. Investigators also consulted forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Baden, who analysed autopsy results for Sheri and the boys. Based on his findings, Baden determined that they had likely died several hours before Chris left for the gym, confirming detectives' suspicions that Chris's alibi was manufactured. A handwriting expert matched the threatening letters with Chris's own writing, and a computer analyst confirmed that the emails came from Chris's account, further eliminating the possibility of a mystery assailant.
Person of interest. There's 31-year-old mom. Her son's just 9 and 11 years old. All three murdered in the early morning hours, apparently as they slept in their own beds. Straight out to McGraw-Millhaven. Talk show host KTRS Radio there in Missouri. What's the latest, McGraw?
Nancy, thanks for the invite. They held a news conference earlier today, and the police said that they do have a person of interest and they do have enough evidence. However, they're not going to reveal who the person of interest is, and they've handed off the investigation to the Monroe County Prosecutor.
Chris was arrested on May 19, 2009, at his parents' home in Chester, Illinois, and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder.
A horrifying but very real tale of sex lies and murder in suburbia. The married Chris wanted to start a new life with his mistress, but he was afraid of losing his job.
The trial, delayed several times, finally began in April 2011. Prosecutors argued that Chris had concocted an elaborate scheme to get out of his marriage without the disgrace of divorce, planning to continue his high-profile career with Meyer while building a new life with Lintz. Joyce Meyer provided recorded testimony, admitting she had not known of Chris's affair and likely would have dismissed him had she known. She explained that her ministry maintained a strict policy regarding personal conduct, though they employed people who had been through divorces.
I was asked to testify by the state's attorney, which I just did. Answered the questions honestly and truthfully and have cooperated all along the way. They have requested that I not discuss this case any further because it's an ongoing case, and so that's really all I can say.
Is this a difficult experience for you? Tell us that.
I'm afraid that's all we have to say now. Ms. Meyer has to go, and
The most dramatic testimonies came from Dr. Baden, who confirmed the victim's time of death aligned with Chris's presence in the home, and from Tara Lintz, who described Chris's promises of a new life with her. The defense attempted to suggest someone had hacked Chris's computer to send the emails, but no evidence supported this theory. Chris Coleman did not take the stand during the 9-day trial. After 15 hours of deliberation, the jury found him guilty on all counts on May 5, 2011, the 2-year anniversary of the murders. He was sentenced to life without parole.
Mandy, we were right here outside the courtroom as Christopher Coleman was taken away right after this verdict was read, and it was an emotional scene. You could hear the crowd cheering as he was taken away. No doubt he could hear those folks, but he never looked up. His head remained down as he was taken back to the county jail until that sentencing phase begins. All around the courthouse, it was the same reaction from folks here. They were cheering one after the other. Some were exchanging high fives, clapping, taking pictures. Now here's how some of the people outside the courthouse reacted just moments after that verdict was read.
I think it is great. I think that justice has been served, and this is a long time coming, 2 years in the making, and I'm so glad that it's over and that Sheri got the verdict that she would want in this.
Justice was served. I was scared being in Waterloo, and we don't have murders like this. I'm really happy today. I really am. For the mother, the children, it's a good day.
The trial ended the tragic story of the Colemans, but left lasting grief for the family members who had lost Sheri and her children. The Coleman case remains one of the most haunting and detailed murder cases in Illinois, with complex layers of forensic evidence, digital footprints, and psychological motivations that came together to tell the story of a man willing to do anything to escape his marriage, even take the lives of those closest to him.